in a week where we've lost Big Ben, Drew Brees, and several other important players, we've also lost 2 key contributors. But don't worry, we're still here to talk about Kirk Cousins. Welcome to the Snap UK podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Snap UK podcast. My name is Johnny Frash and today we are back recording at Chateau Green. No Gilo or 4 inches today, but it just means you get concentrated GBG and Griff. With week 1 came the overreactions. Now with week 2 in the bag, it's time to see where some of our teams are really at when it comes to on-field performances and playoff hopes. Only one place to start, and it's relevant only mainly because of the news that broke just a few hours ago. The cult of Eli has collapsed. Daniel Jones, or Eli Mark II, will start in week 3 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers following 2 insipid performances from the Giants, who followed last week's loss to the Cowboys by getting beaten 28-14 at home by the now 2-0 Bills. If Eli takes the field again, something has drastically gone wrong with the number 6 draft choice. Is that right?
Or he's got injured, just like every other quarterback seems to be getting at the moment.
I'd say it's nailed on, isn't it? Eli back in by the third quarter.
I mean, given the state of the offensive line for the Giants, it's not out of question to think that Daniel Jones could get hit quite a few times.
You'd like to think he might be slightly more mobile than Eli.
Yeah, but he's also facing a Todd Bowles defense, which after week 1 against San Francisco we were questioning, but when they played the Panthers this week, they looked really good.
Yeah, they looked good against Cam. Against...
Well, yeah.
So
Cam
against
used
Cam,
to be pretty mobile.
Yeah, he used to be. But I would hope that Daniel Jones be more mobile than that now. Now, we've had a pre-game discussion, and I think John certainly felt this change wasn't coming till next year. I felt week 6 and onwards. What about yourself?
I thought it'd come as soon as the playoff hopes were well and truly over.
So now?
Probably about now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, he might struggle through some games, but does it matter? He needs to learn. The worst case scenario is he gets injured and they have to go back to Eli. But let's assume they have some luck and he manages to stay on the field. They might as well just get on with this. It's got to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Giants are in a state of rebuild at the moment. That's quite clear by some of the moves they made in the off-season, getting rid of Landon Collins, getting rid of OBJ, drafting Daniel Jones with the 6th pick. It wasn't everyone's first choice, and it was a bit of a surprise choice, but that's the quarterback they've identified that they want to build around. They went out and got him, fair play. Now it's time to give him some experience. This season's not going to be the season that the Giants are going to have a Super Bowl run or even playoff run. More likely they're going to be picking in the top 5, but at least use this season to give him some experience, start working with Saquon Barkley, working with Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard, who you presume they're going to start building around on the offense. And, come next season with a few more additions to that offensive line, maybe another receiver him to throw to, it could be a completely different offense in New York.
There's certainly plenty of work to do there, but you got to start somewhere. Interesting note, how many games do you think Eli has played for the Giants? Don't look it up. I can see you.
214.
You're so close. It's 232.
Okay.
What do you think his win-loss record is?
He's at 500, isn't he?
It is 116 and 116.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to duck out before you become a losing quarterback. Because very few losing quarterbacks go into the Hall of Fame. And at the moment, Eli's teetering on the edge. You've got your 2 Super Bowls and the rest of your career.
I think he gets in with 2 Super Bowls and the fact that his second name is Manning.
Yeah, as do I. But if you start crashing into being a sub-500 quarterback, there's a lot more cries of people saying that guy can't really go in. I mean, Trent Dilfer got a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's
and he's not going in the Hall of Fame. He was awful. So, now is the time to go. Hopefully, he can coach Daniel Jones, and it can actually be a lift-off point for the Giants. Let's be positive on that, because I, for one, would like to see the Giants being competitive. I think it's better for football when the bigger teams are competitive. Now, with regards to competitive football, how much better could the Bills really have done through 2 weeks?
I think they looked really good.
They're 2-0.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, all right, he's going to throw interceptions and he's going to give the ball away from time to time. It's Brett Favre-esque in terms of his turnovers, but he's also leading this team, properly leading this team. And you just can't ask for more from a second-year quarterback. I think he's been excellent.
He comes across as a really nice guy as well. Like, he's quite enamoured with the fact that he's playing with Frank Gore. Josh Allen's a big 49ers fan. Wasn't a
Hall of
million
Fame,
years ago.
the Hall of Fame.
Future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
No potential.
No potential.
Guaranteed.
He's not Eli standard. He is going in.
He's going in.
Yeah, Josh Allen, 19 of 30, 253 yards and a touchdown. No picks this week. I suspect he had plenty of yards rushing. He normally does. Only 21, but he had a touchdown as well.
He's also got the better receivers around him that fit his game in terms of like Cole Beasley and John Brown are both quick and able to get down the field, and that makes use of like that huge arm he's got because he can fling it.
Yeah, he really can. The Cole Beasley pickup is a really good one as far as I can see. The work he does in the intermediate routes it's incredible how many times he's open. He only had 4 receptions, but 4 on 4 targets for 83 yards. That's fairly impressive from a guy that we would say has been lost in the mix in Dallas. They've unearthed exactly what they need in Cole Beasley. I've been impressed with it so far. It's they seem to have made all the right moves and they're building a roster in the right way. I still don't rate Sean McDermott as highly as a lot of people do, but you can't fault at all the way this team is being built. And there are other teams, i.e. the Dolphins, that should be looking at this and thinking, that's how we want to regenerate our team. Maybe teams like the Buccaneers and the Cardinals as well should be looking and thinking, this is how we've got to build around our new star player.
They've also built around the defense as well. Tremaine Edwards coming in last year at linebacker, he was a really good prospect. He's starting to play really well. Ed Oliver, it was his second game. He knocked down a pass and generally a nuisance to that offensive line for the whole game. And they've got quality elsewhere in the defense as well. So it's, Sean McDermott's a defensive-minded coach. The defense is very strong. I think the Bills are probably the one team now in the AFC East that could potentially give New England at least a competitive game. Yeah,
it certainly looks that way. I did hear calls of this before the season started that the Bills were going to be second best in the AFC East. I thought they were another year away, but Josh Allen's taken a big leap and he's dragged the whole team with him. So you can't fault what they're doing.
He's won more at the MetLife since he was drafted than both Darnold and Eli.
Has he really? I mean, that's an impressive stat to have. He's also the best quarterback in New York at the moment.
Officially,
because they are all New York teams. Buffalo is a New York team.
Yeah.
As he reminded everyone.
He did, and deservedly so.
It's an hour's flight from New York, but
New York
still.
City. Still New York State, though.
Yeah. But the other two play in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So, still. I mean, all right, so let's say Daniel Jones comes in and he's going to get crushed for a few weeks, we suspect.
Yep.
There's going to be some teething problems, we suspect. Best case scenario for the Giants this season, I say best case scenario is they win 4 games.
Yeah, I think
so.
That's fair.
It now seems that way.
I mean, I was going to say 2.
Yeah,
I think it seriously. I think it could be that bad because I don't rate the defense on the New York Giants either. I don't think they know what they're doing. Yeah, the offense. We were chatting about it earlier. I don't think there's many receivers for him to throw to.
Well, that's why I thought bringing him in now seemed. He's on a hiding almost to nothing this week because I think Sterling Shepard is still possibly out with a concussion.
I think when your leading receiver is Benny Fowler, who got cut by the Broncos for 51 yards. I still don't think they're getting enough out of Saquon Barkley. He had more carries this week, 18. But I still think you need to be giving him the ball 25 times in a game. And I think good news for fantasy owners this week. I think he will with Daniel Jones at quarterback.
Jones's first job should be just swoop to the left and just give him the ball.
Or if it's passing game and he's the check down, look for him first because.
Ingram as well. We should be getting more out of Evan Ingram.
Yeah, and I think you will. All new quarterbacks get a lot of work to their tight ends every time. So your next few fixtures, we know the Bucks next week. Yeah. All right, the chances are you're not winning there. Then you're at home to the Redskins, and they are playing better than I thought, but that's not an immediate defeat on paper. Then Vikings, Patriots, Cardinals. That's not
Cardinals is to me is the first name on there. I'm thinking that we could win that.
At the Lions,
you never know the Lions.
No, Cowboys coming to the MetLife?
Never.
No.
That's a loss.
Jets, they don't look that good.
If Darnold's back by then,
Depends if they were good for the first half when they had their defense.
Yeah.
They lost a few players
But
on
let's
defense.
say it's the same Jets team we've seen the first couple of weeks. I don't think that's an immediate defeat.
Maybe not an immediate
Then
defeat.
back as Eagles. Then you've got the
Losing all
Dolphins, the
those.
Redskins, and the Eagles again at the end of the season. I think
the
you could-
Dolphins is a win. For
yeah,
the
you
Giants.
can definitely make a case for 4 wins.
Yeah.
So let's say 2 to 4 is in that range. I think that's a success with a new quarterback. Bearing in mind, Eli has contributed nothing in 2 games.
I mean, as well, if we've got a new quarterback, it's not like we'll have to worry in the draft. I mean, because
Well, if you win 4 games, you're
Dolphins
picking.
are going.
Yeah, they're picking 1,
They're picking 1.
and then you're picking somewhere between 2 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get at least
I think
one
that-
more decent
yeah,
piece to
I mean,
rebuild.
If you're picking second, that gives the Giants really good draft stock.
yeah,
in case
absolutely.
like you can draft down and probably get quite a big haul. There's probably, I think I said a couple of weeks ago, there might be 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks coming into the draft next year who teams will want. Or you can get an edge defender, Chase Young out of Ohio State. It's being rated higher than Nick Bosa was, and that would be an incredible take. Again, it bodes well for the Giants for the future. Use this season, accept that it's not going to be a winning season.
They long since accepted that.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another team,
I mean, I'm just going to be just lording it over the Dolphins with our 2 wins.
and I'll segue it while we're here. Another team that needs to accept they might not be having a winning season is the Steelers.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this story that's emerging. The Steelers lost 28-26 at home to the Seahawks. More importantly, they lost Big Ben for the season. He is out. He's having elbow surgery sometime now, I think, if he hasn't had it already. Browns and the Ravens are on the rise in the AFC North. Has this ended the Steelers' playoff hopes already? Or because Mason Rudolph wasn't terrible,
It's not
is he
already
going to be
over.
able to do enough?
I think the bigger concern is James Conner being injured as well.
He is going to be fit, apparently.
Right.
He is going to be back. It was a precautionary removal from the game.
And then second after that is the offensive line has not looked good across the last 2 weeks.
Surprisingly.
Roethlisberger, the injury he got wasn't from a contact, which kind of makes you, at the time, made you worry even more, because if they're getting injured from non-contact, it's a proper injury. But that offensive line has not been great over the last couple of games. They've lost Mike Munchak to the Broncos, who was their offensive line coordinator. That
Because mainly the
AB
offensive
going,
line.
Bell going, Roethlisberger now being injured,
Moncrief coming in.
Moncrief coming in.
Oh, let's talk about Dante Moncrief. 1 target, which he failed to corral. Did it hit him in the helmet and pinged off for an
Yeah.
interception? Last week he dropped 4 out of
Yeah.
4 or 4 out of 5, something like that. Wow.
I mean, have we been judging Bortles based on his throwing to Moncrief?
Moncrief was all right at the Colts. He had a bad
he was
season.
all right at the Colts.
He did have a bad season at the Jaguars. He didn't do anything.
It may just be that he's not very good, and Andrew Luck was making him look better. But
Well,
I'm
who'd have
surprised
thought
that
it?
Ben Roethlisberger couldn't get more out of him. And I mean, honestly, he's been terrible. They ought to just bring in James Washington and slowly move Dante further and further from the stadium, I suspect. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play much from now on, because he's clearly a liability
It's
at the
pretty
moment.
bad. I thought when it was announced yesterday that Roethlisberger was going to be out for the season, I thought, fine, well, they're going to have Mason Rudolph. They'll give him a season, see what happens. If he's good, okay, they've maybe got a quarterback they can build around in future seasons. If he's bad, they'll have a high draft pick and they can draft a quarterback for future seasons. But now they've given away that first round pick and traded it to Miami for Minka Fitzpatrick. I'm now a bit unclear as to what their game plan is. Not for this season, but certainly for next season. Because I half expected for them to, if there was going to be bad, bring in a quarterback. You've got Roethlisberger, who's going to be, it'll be his second year of a 2-year contract. He'll bugger off, either retire or go somewhere else, and they'll have a decent quarterback to build around again for the next 10 to 15 years. So now they've given away that first-round pick. The first time the Steelers won't be picking the first round since 1968, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guaranteeing they won't pick up a first-round pick somewhere else, although I can't see who for, unless, somebody really desperately wants Dante Moncrief. Giants haven't got many receivers. Look, I think they're obviously comfortable with
We're
Mason.
stupid,
You are.
but we're not that stupid.
No. They're obviously comfortable with Mason Rudolph. I mean, 12 and 19, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, slightly dodgy pick. Like
Yeah,
we described.
that wasn't on him.
That's not on him. They
I thought
obviously feel
I thought
comfortable
he looked
enough.
all right.
Well, bearing in mind as well, the previous week they traded away Josh Dobbs, who was their more experienced backup, to the Jaguars as a backup to Gardner Minshew. The third. So you were telling me earlier who they've promoted.
Devlin Hodges.
Yeah, me neither. And Paxton Lynch is on the practice squad, so there's not much hope behind Mason Rudolph.
What does that say for Paxton Lynch when he's on the practice squad and Devlin Hodges is in the first?
I believe John has been signed up on the practice squad as well, has he not?
I have, yeah.
And you don't have a big arm, do you, John? You've got two very short arms.
Stubby arms.
You have
T-Rex arms.
Yeah. But I think what this really tells you is that they are confident Ben is coming back next year. He has said, I am committed.
He said he
to
will.
playing.
I believe he will, but...
And the year off, despite the surgery, might actually do him the world of good.
He needs to lose a bit of weight.
He needs to lose some weight, always. And it may give him a chance to just
He looks
recover.
like a slug at the moment.
I mean, you look at... Okay, yes, they're older quarterbacks, but you look at Tom Brady, Eli Manning and Philip Rivers. They're not as podgy as old Roethlisberger.
No, he's clearly an eater,
He hasn't got a neck.
It's not a good look, but we're not here to judge him on his looks. So, I'm willing to let that go. I think the year off could do him the world of good. He never strikes me as a man who loves his job.
No.
And maybe a year away will make him think, actually, I have one of the best jobs in the world.
Well, I think it could go either way. It could do that, or it could be like, I'm actually quite enjoying not getting beaten up every week. I'm not missing football. I'm going to retire.
I'm surprised by the slightly poor playing from the O-line, as it's the same O-line he's had for years, and that was one of the reasons he said he was committing to coming back, is because he likes playing behind them. So obviously the loss of the coaching staff there has been a detriment, but I think they will get that solved. I don't think it's going to be a problem for long, because the players are very good.
Yeah,
It's one of the best O-lines over the last, 5 years?
And I think, the defence as well, again, they've added a lot of parts there. They've now added Minka Fitzpatrick. I think it's probably their best backfield.
Where's he
going to
play? Is he just going to play wherever they need to slot him in, or is he actually going to be given a position now?
I think he'll be playing as a slot cornerback.
Okay. I mean, I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
I'm yet to decide where he should be playing. I've seen him play everywhere for the Dolphins.
I think that's part of the problem in having kind of utility players when you need someone to be a specialist. He's not a specialist at one position, but he will. And he's not one of the safeties that will come into the box and rush the quarterback like Derwin James will, but he will do a job at kind of covering players.
You're suggesting that Minka Fitzpatrick is the Phil Neville of backfield players?
I'm never going to call him on that.
Well,
That's horrid. That's horrid.
Yeah.
Take that back.
He'll be coaching a women's NFL team in no time. Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 receptions, 84 yards. What more could he do in this game with the quarterback situation as it was? Everybody else, bit disappointing.
Vance McDonald had 7 receptions, but again, it's coming back to having a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Needs a good tight end.
I mean, he's got the 2 touchdowns. You can't complain about that, but there's nobody yet who's stepping up with the big chunk plays that you used to get out of Antonio, and that's something they're going to have to develop over the course of the season, which obviously is something that's going to be put back a little bit by having to bring in a new quarterback that you weren't planning on playing every week. So, playoff hopes for the Steelers, you don't think they're over? I think they're over.
I think they're over.
I think they're over.
They're not over. I mean,
I don't think they're not.
But I won't be. I'm not going to say they're likely. I'm just saying they're not over.
I think the ceiling is probably 7 games, 7 wins.
Yeah, I mean they're 0-2, which is not a great start to say the least.
It's probably the worst start you can get. Isn't it?
I think if they get to 7 games, they'll have done really well. 7 wins.
Yeah,
I think
that's why I said that's. I think the ceiling.
I think that may even be a stretch, just because we've never seen anything out of Mason Rudolph, and it's that you pick the star player that's going to elevate the rest of the rest of the roster. There isn't one. The defense.
Well, Juju, I think, is the only one that could.
But we're yet to see him carry the team by himself. Last year, James Conner carried the team, but it doesn't look like he's
not the same running back he was last year.
Well, also, teams have now had a year of seeing him on tape. They know, right, this is what he's going to do. These are his 5 moves, so we'll coach against that. I didn't think this team would be this poor without Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. I thought they would be better than this, but I think this time next year, you'll be looking at a contending team, whether Mason Rudolph is a quarterback or Ben Roethlisberger, because everybody, Juju, and James Conner, everybody will have had another year's experience. But I think the loss of Ben, that nails the coffin on this one. The Ravens and the Browns are too good.
When they lost Brown, and I didn't think they'd make the playoffs. And the loss of Ben just further compounds that. You never know.
Do you think Tomlin's in trouble?
No, he's just
No,
signed a
because now,
contract, hasn't he?
yeah, well, not even that. Now what they'll say is he didn't have Big Ben. You can't do it. He's never had a losing season, has he?
No.
This could be it. But I don't think the ownership there, and rightly so, they shouldn't judge him on the outcome of this season once you've lost your 2 star playmakers in the field and your quarterback all in the space of 12 months. I just, there's no way that he's in trouble. They could lose all their games, and I don't think he'd be in trouble.
I think he might be if they did that. But I mean, I wonder if they are thinking about almost doing a bit of a reboot. If a new quarterback comes in, is it time to have a new coaching staff? Is it, is Tomlin getting a bit stale? Because he's not had a losing season, but equally they've not really had a good playoff run either.
Well, this has always been my knock on Tomlin. I'm not sure he's capable of getting them over the line.
Yeah,
I just don't think the management staff in the Steelers boardroom are going to judge him on this season at all. I think that he gets a free pass now for another year. Right, with the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, 29-35, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Basically didn't have to do anything more than that. He just wandered around and did Russell Wilson things. I like the fact he's not having to rush for all the yards himself. 6 rushing attempts, 22 yards. But he's not rushing into danger at any point. Like this time last year, he was running round and round in circles. And I thought it was going to be a bit the same with Doug Baldwin retiring and no one to throw to, but Tyler Lockett's stepping up. DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's a really good wide receiver combo because they're very different in terms of like their physicality. Tyler Lockett, small, speedy, kind of almost like a gadget type player. Yeah, small. And DK Metcalf is pretty much the opposite, where he's built like a bloody tank, and good luck trying to mark him.
Yeah. No, he's been really impressive so far. There's been some good Wookiee.
Good Wookiees.
Star Wars out at Christmas.
There's been some good new
wide receivers.
That has. Will Dissly as well, tight end, 5 receptions for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a sort of a player, but
was it last year or the year before? He'd had a similar game, like quite early in the season, and everyone rushed to pick him up on fantasy. I can just see the same happening this year, and him not doing anything else.
He got 110 yards in the first game, and then nothing for the whole season.
Yeah, all right.
Fantasy owners beware.
Yeah, I do worry about the depth behind those 2 top wide receivers though, because the next best receiver was Malik Turner, and then Nick Vannett.
Yes, there's not a huge amount there. The rushing game, Rashad Penny has at least turned up this season, which is good.
Yeah.
And actually, I really like the running style that he has. He's jinking around. It's really good. I thought Chris Carson would be the lead back this year.
He kind of was in the first game. And again, we mentioned this a couple of weeks back. They're moving to... They've obviously moved on from Marshall Lynch, and now they've kind of got a staple of good running backs who they can switch in and out, and we're seeing
there was only 2 yards between these two, weren't there? But Chris Carson only going at 4 yards a carry, Penny going at 6.2.
I think 4 yards a carry is what you want. If you get free downs at 4 yards a carry, you've got a first down.
You do, but my point is, if Rashad Penny's going at 6.2, we know which one's going to get the most carries because you go with the guy who's racking up the yardage. I think Rashad Penny should be the better of the 2. He's the more talented running back out of the 2.
They're different running backs, aren't they, as well?
Yeah, I mean, and they're both better than CJ Prosise.
I mean, yeah.
Which is your third option. But
he's still at 3.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, on his 2 carries or whatever it was. Yeah.
Look, bending the stats to my wheel.
The Seahawks, the 2-0 start in a tricky division. I really like what they're doing. I think they look really
I was going to
good.
go the other way on that.
Really?
They've played the Bengals and the Steelers
won
now.
By a point against the Bengals, 2 against
at home,
the Steelers.
and 2 against the Steelers. The Steelers were saying, against the backup quarterback for a lot of the match, and the 49ers just made the Bengals look pretty ordinary at best. I'm not convinced by the Seahawks team, but as soon as the 49ers play, they'll probably up the game.
Would you be convinced if I told you they're probably going to start 4-0, bearing in mind the next 2 games are the Saints, who are on their backup quarterback, and the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'm more
if they
convinced
started
now.
4-0, you'd be more convinced.
Yeah, I'm just...
Then
you can look at their record and say they've had 4 straightforward matches.
Yeah, then it's Rams, Browns, Ravens, Falcons, Bucks, Niners, so a couple of easy games in there. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
the season definitely gets harder.
They generally beat the Rams as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And it would totally be like the Seahawks of recent years to go 3-0 and then lose to the Cardinals.
Yeah, that's true.
Wilson still took 4 sacks on the game as well. So that offensive line is still a worry.
Yeah, and it always will be. It's only been him that keeps them in games. But
he did play very well.
Yeah, he's
he's
very, very good.
He is still a top 5 quarterback in this league. And as long as he's there on this team and they put competent players on the pitch around him, you've got to expect that they'll be right in playoff contention again.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
So, did you see the ending of the Bears and Broncos late on Sunday night?
Nope. No, I did.
You did. Of course I did, because you were texting me about it.
I did, and I also wrote the running order. I did see it, and I was impressed by my computer shouting at me. I was impressed by what I saw, mainly because it wasn't a great game, but it was a wonderful ending to an average game. I think we may have some talk about the officials coming up.
Yep.
But the gist of this was Flacco drove the Broncos down the field, scored a touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders, and Vic Fangio called, let's go for 2 and wrap this thing up. And then Flacco inexplicably didn't get the playoff and got done for delay of game, forcing them back 5 yards, and meaning that they went for a 1-point PAT, which Brandon McManus missed. But it didn't matter because Buster Screen had jumped off sides, marched the Broncos for the 5 yards back to where they started, and off they went for 2 again to Emmanuel Sanders and scored it.
Literally was a comedy of errors.
It was daft. Jim and I couldn't believe what was happening.
I'd fallen asleep at this point.
There was 31 seconds on the clock when they scored their 2-point conversion.
That was like that whole series of plays probably took about 5 minutes.
It was daft. But for what it's worth, Fangio having the cojones to go for 2, win the game, no problem. Only there was a problem because Mitch Trubisky turned up for the last 30 seconds, and so did the officials. They hit Bradley Chubb with the worst roughing the passer call I have seen in a long time.
Yeah.
He timed the tackle perfectly. And where was he supposed to go? It's like they wanted him to knock the quarterback over and then just evaporate. He was perfectly entitled to tackle him, and he was doing everything he could not to crush Trubisky into the ground. I thought it was a brilliant tackle.
It was. It shows what a brilliant player he is. And, football is a violent game. Part of the game is to tackle people. Yeah, tackling people late is not on, but...
This wasn't late.
No, the speed at which players like Bradley Chubb, Von Miller, D. Ford... The speed at which they move, they can't stop themselves on a sixpence. The momentum means they're going to have to follow through and they're going to have to tackle. This is almost like that, the whole Clay Matthews incident beginning of last season, the body weight issue.
Yeah,
a lot of that is because they are coming in at a split second and the quarterback's just getting the ball away. That was a horrible, horrible, horrible call, and I felt massively disappointed for the Broncos fans.
Well,
and
it marched the Bears 15 yards that they weren't otherwise going to get. And then, to his credit, Trubisky on 4th down somehow evaded the sack, bought himself a load of time, stepped up and completed a brilliant pass to get them within field goal range, just within field goal range.
Yeah.
And gave Eddie Pinheiro 1 second, one contentious second,
yeah, I'm still
to hit a
about that as well.
53-yard field goal. Well, firstly, round of applause to Eddie Pinheiro for putting up with the preseason kicker battle and all the crap he's had to go through. Honestly, even I cheered because I was delighted for him.
To be fair, after all the crap he had to go through to get that job, actually kicking the field goal should be a piece of piss.
Well, it looked like it. It was a 53-yarder and it had another 10 yards on it.
Yeah, but Mile High Stadium.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. But the contentious point about this was the Bears were given the timeout as the reception was collected. Was he down before time expired? I didn't think he was.
Thought he was.
I wasn't sure he was. Apparently, the rule is you can tell the official as soon as the guy is down, I'm taking the timeout, and they will grant it to you.
I've never heard that rule before.
Neither
I've always thought it was you had to get the official's attention to call a timeout. Either the quarterback or any player or the coach has to kind of make the sign of a timeout, and there's no way that they will be able to do that. So yes, if that's the case, and that's a thing where they can say as soon as that play's dead, I'm taking a timeout. Fine, but I've never seen it happen before.
No, me neither. But there you go. That's what was allowed to happen. I would imagine there were 2 things here about Vic Fangio. He must have thought, A, I definitely won't lose to Mitch Trubisky. And B, I definitely won't lose to a Bears field goal. And both of these things.
A long one as well. Yeah.
He must have just thought, no chance, this is fine.
Because kicking this week in a hole was bad.
Yeah, there's been a few.
And we'll mention some others, but Eddie Pinheiro was you can't fault what he's done. Just the fact that Brandon McManus had already missed the PAT, which didn't count, was one thing. But then for the Bears kicker to actually convert from distance was incredible. Can you name the last 3 players to pass for 120 yards or less and not score any touchdowns and win games?
Sounds like a Bortles thing.
No, the last 3 players to do it were Mitch Trubisky in this game and Mitch Trubisky twice last year. I mean, all right, the cards on the table now. Is he the Bears franchise quarterback for the next 5 years?
Probably, yeah, because they don't.
Yeah, he'll probably be there for the next 5 years, but he'll never. I don't think he'll be a top 10, 15 quarterback.
He's never going to be.
Let me word it in a different way.
He's never going to even be a Jared Goff.
Let's assume.
But
what's he in now? His 3rd season.
Yes.
Yeah.
So years 3 to 6, you would think peak years at a team for a quarterback. No. All right. What years 3 to 10?
Well, it depends on the quarterback, doesn't it?
The thing is, the Bears. They go smash mouth, and they will run it at you with Cohen, with...
The only reason I ask,
Montgomery.
would you rather have had... I don't know, pick a year that Trubisky's going to be there. I can only pick the years he's been there, so I'll say Trubisky now, or year 3 onwards of when they had Jay Cutler. Because I think Jay Cutler was a better quarterback than Trubisky.
Yeah, I think he is at the moment. I think the real disappointment is this is his 2nd season under Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy... offensive coordinator at the Chiefs, came into the Bears job with...
Supposed to be a genius.
As one of these so-called offensive geniuses. Last season, he looked quite good. Like, he definitely took a step forward from his first season where he was very average but didn't have any receivers. This season, he seems to have taken a step back, and I'd say the whole Bears offense has taken a step backwards.
Yeah.
I can't put my finger on what it is, because the only key player they've lost is Jordan Howard, and they've replaced him with David Montgomery, who looks pretty decent.
Yeah, 3.5 yards a carry. He's doing what he's being asked to do. They brought in Cordero Patterson from the Patriots, who's a gadget player, and they've also got Tariq Cohen, who's a gadget player, and neither of them are fulfilling their potential because I think they're taking snaps off each other. You don't need both of those players on your team. I don't understand that. I think Cohen is a better player out of the two.
Well, at least
I do not ask.
He gives you an option as both a kick returner, but also a wide receiver as well. So
yeah, he does, but he doesn't excel at either. I mean,
no, he doesn't excel at
He's
either.
a special teams player. He's not really a wide receiver, is he? I mean, how many receiving yards did he have this week? None. I think none. Cohen had more.
I don't think he was even.
Cohen had more, and he had 7. I don't think they've got. I don't think they've got the balance right in with what's going on. The defense is still very good. You can't fault that. I don't like what they're doing on offense at all. I don't think Trubisky's advanced as far as he should have done, and I don't think Nagy is helping his own reputation now. I think he was given a wave to ride, and actually it's crashing slightly.
I think, let's be fair, it was a bit of a lucky result against Denver. They should really be 0-2. They're 1-1.
Yeah.
I did feel sorry for Denver, but I was looking at the stats just now, and 50 passing attempts from Joe Flacco. Come on, you don't ask Joe Flacco to throw that often. They've got 2 good running backs in Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay, and they couldn't get it going.
They could not
They
establish
have 2 running backs.
Look, I'm still reeling from dropping Royce Freeman from my fantasy team. I was disgusted with myself. The only thing I could allow myself off the hook was
also the second best receiver on the team.
Yeah, he was. Look, I regret doing it. The only reason I don't feel attached to him is because he was auto-picked for me when the internet dropped out. If you remember, that's how I came across Royce Freeman.
It was only your internet that dropped out. Everyone else
it was. Mine did it twice. Who was the other one I got? Joe Mixon. That's not really working for me either. Flacco, 35 of 50, 292 yards, touchdown and a pick. The pick was bad. It was bad. It was a bad decision. But other than that, he played much better than last week. If they can get average Flacco with this defence and the running game, I think they're all right. But
the biggest issue on this offence is Grant Bowles. Was he left tackle?
He's averaging like 4 penalties a game or something.
Yeah, that was... I mean, it looked like there were... like I say, 4 opportunities where they were gone for decent yardage, and he was getting pinged for holding. He's his second or third year, and now with Munchak as the offensive line coach we mentioned earlier at the Steelers last season, you should be expecting him
He's
to
the
be
new
better.
Eric Flowers, isn't he?
Possibly.
I mean, honestly, he's
God,
back.
what a moniker to get.
Yeah. They've given him the revolving door award. He just gives away too many penalties. You cannot do it. It was good to see Emmanuel Sanders having a really good, solid game. You know,
Yes,
he looks pretty much like he always has done. 11 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. You can't ask for more than that.
I like the Broncos team. You've got some experience there in Flacco and Sanders, and you've got a lot of youth as well. I really like Cortland Sutton, the wide receiver. I liked him coming out of the draft last year, and he had a sort of below average season, but coming on well this year.
So what one thing that each of these teams need to do to improve their chances moving forward? The Bears are 1-1. The Broncos are 0-2. First 0-2 start since 1999 for the Broncos, I think. There's massive leaps forward needed on both of these offenses.
It's the offense on both sides, yeah.
But how do they fix the offenses? Like you just said, you can't ask Joe Flacco to throw 50 passes every week.
No, so it comes down to the offensive line and making sure that they've got a better opportunity for running, because I love the 1-2 punch with Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay. You've got that kind of jitterbug running back in Lindsay who can get kind of around the edge, and you've got Royce Freeman who can just plow out through the middle. You know, that's a good combination. So if the offensive line is not getting pinged for holding every other play and can open up some holes for them to dash through, that's kind of where they're going to get probably the most productivity from. And on the Bear side of things, I just want to see Matt Nagy be Matt Nagy again.
Do you know what I want to see from the Bears? I want to see Matt Nagy scheme some plays in for Mitch Trubisky to run the ball. He is an athlete. He's a really good runner. He had one carry for 8 yards.
You know, in their defence, the Packers' defence has proved over the last couple of games it's much
and the Broncos'
better.
defence
And the Broncos' defence is solid as well. So I'm not sure who the Bears have got next week, but let's see. I think they got I want to say they got the Redskins. I'm wrong on that, I'm sure.
I don't.
No, they did have the Redskins on Monday night.
Yeah, so let's see kind of what they do against the Redskins and probably judge it from there. But I definitely want to see Nagy get back to doing Nagy things.
Yeah, I mean, I just think both of these teams got so far to go on offense, and I've been surprised by how poor they had looked. So
I don't think I've been surprised by how poor the Broncos' offense has looked.
No.
I wasn't expecting great things of it, but I think there's still potential.
I was expecting
for it to
more
get
out of the
better.
run game. Always.
I think both teams are sort of where I expect them to be.
Many of us, or many other people as well, predicted the Philadelphia Eagles to be Super Bowl favourites. They're 1-1 after a 20-24 loss at Atlanta, and they appeared limited in their own running game. Wentz narrowly avoided another dose of injury after passing through the concussion protocol mid-game. Were we all too high on the Eagles, or is this just an average start and they'll pick it up like the Patriots
I think
normally
we're
do?
maybe too low on the Falcons on this occasion.
Yeah.
They had a
Well, I
bad
said the Falcons
start.
were going to be good this year. I picked them for the playoffs.
You had picked them for the Super Bowl.
I did. I think they're.
So I remember.
I think they should be an excellent team.
I went through our choices today, so we can
I
track
mean,
them
all right.
later in the season.
Let's be honest.
I think I said
looked
Bears and Saints in the NFC playoff, didn't I? That's now not
no.
happening.
You did, yes.
Yeah.
Bears and Saints.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Not as bad as Gary's pick of the Steelers.
No, that's looking a bit daft. The Falcons, their problem is there's no consistency at all in their game. It's either brilliant plays or some really inexplicably daft, just not moving the ball when you should be, not picking up the easy yards plays.
Well, you mentioned the running game at the Eagles. The running game at the Falcons is no
Yeah,
better. Like
Freeman
Devonta
is struggling.
really struggling. He had 2 yards a carry
Yeah.
off of 11 carries, so 22 yards in total. E.T. Smith had one long run for I think 22 yards, and
Yeah, he really. I expected a
yards,
lot
sorry.
more out of him. I thought he was good as the third running back last year. He's still playing like a third running back despite being promoted up the order. Matt Ryan as well, 5 interceptions all in this year already. He only had 7 all of last season.
it's not what you expect from Matt Ryan.
No, he can only get better. But he had 3 in this game, and some of them were poor, just so overthrown. It's almost like he's panicking. But a player of his caliber doesn't need to panic. There's no need to panic. So why is he pulling the trigger and absolutely heaving the ball down the field? Now, for the game-winning score, Julio Jones may have been one of the best runs we've seen out of Julio in a long time.
Yeah.
But he also had some amazing blocking from Jake Matthews in front of him. Was it the left guard or the left tackle? I'm not sure.
Left tackle.
The left tackle, who pulled out of the offensive line, and absolutely flattened Ronald Darby.
Yeah.
Absolutely just wiped him out. Do you remember that time? Oh, you
Thing
weren't
of-
there for the
thing
time
to
that
behold.
Duncan wiped out John in the
No.
park. It was like that. Like there was just this pair of smouldering shoes on the floor. It was brilliant. And then Jones just turned on the afterburners and ran in for the touchdown. That was one of Matt Ryan's best passes of the day, and it went for -1 yard because he threw it backwards. Jones was the difference maker here in the end, but also Calvin Ridley. Props to Calvin Ridley. 8 receptions, 105 yards, touchdown of his own. Doing good for your fantasy team, wasn't he, John?
Yeah.
Screw you.
Yeah. Beat you today. Beat you this weekend.
You did. He certainly was a key factor in that.
Yeah, because
I think the Falcons will continue to get better.
Yeah, remembering it's Dirk Cutter's second game as defensive coordinator, so that's going to take a bit more time. I know he was there previously, but it's still going to take a bit of time for them to gel, shall we say. I think the Eagles, I really like Carson Wentz. He shows he has moments of pure brilliance, but then he throws some flipping stupid passes as well.
2 interceptions in this game. It was not clever play
Yeah.
on either of them. And again, like I said, he seems to be ripe for an injury every week. All right, he went in and out of the concussion tent, but he was missing for 5 plays, which, by the way, Josh McCown started for his 43rd NFL franchise. Completed 3 of 5 attempts for 24 yards. If at any point Carson Wentz goes down, this team are in trouble again because he is brilliant.
he's great.
But they're not doing anything anywhere else. Miles Sanders, 10 carries, 28 yards. Jordan Howard, 8 carries, 18 yards. Nothing.
Bring back J.J.
Well, yeah. I mean, when they won the Super Bowl, they
Yeah.
won it almost in spite of the fact of their running game, because it was J.J. and
They had about 4 running backs.
They had
at
about-
the
yeah,
time.
they-
Yeah,
J.J.
J.J.
Wendell Smallwood
Corey
was there.
Clement.
Claude Clement was there. Darren Sproles was there.
and
Wendell
they,
Smallwood.
but they won it in
Smallwood.
spite of that, because it was probably the weakest part of their whole team.
Yeah, there was lots of players
Um,
contributing, but nobody putting up big numbers.
And if anything, it's sort of got worse. And I think what they need is
JJ, London born.
well, just a stud running back, which is easier to.
Miles Sanders
but-
may well be that, but I expected Jordan Howard to carry the load the first half of the season, and so far he's been
pretty bad.
He had a.
Didn't they offered him? They offered him to the Chargers as part of a trade for Melvin Gordon.
I
Apparently,
believe so.
Yeah.
Well,
and Melvin
So
Gordon.
that's
will
how much they
excel
think
on
of him
this team.
after having him for like 2 days.
Nelson Aguilar, bit of a comeback game for Nelson. I know
He
it
also had
helped.
a big drop though.
He did. Well,
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a second, but it helped. He was in the team because Alshon Jeffrey couldn't go, calf strain.
Deshaun Jackson was also injured early on.
Early on, and I don't think he had a reception before he was injured.
No,
did
he didn't.
So Nelson Aguilar picked up all these extra targets, 11 targets, touchdown, 107 yards. But man, what he would have given to have had the other 45 yards that stood in front of him when he allowed the ball to just go through, and he didn't take it. The game was there to be won. He just had to collect the ball. He was 5 yards ahead of the nearest man covering him.
Yeah, he's a good second or third receiver, but he's definitely not a number one receiver.
He said he lost
No.
the ball in the lights and just didn't see it. And it looked like that. Like he just didn't pick it up at all. And then his head just turned as the ball went past. And equally, Zach Ertz. We know he's good. But how on 4th down do you need 7 yards and you run to the sticks and then turn around and run 2 yards back the other way and not get the yard?
I mean, it was a great bit of play by Isaiah Oliver to kind of pull him
To
back,
get him down,
'cause he's
yeah,
like
yeah.
a big unit, and to push him back behind the line and get him down. Fair play to him, but you're right. Zach Ertz, all he had to do was fall forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just run to the sticks or
Yeah.
run 1 yard past the sticks and then catch the ball.
It was bad play on his part in terms of not knowing where that first down marker was. Because on 4th down, even on 3rd down, you need to know. Receivers should know where that is, and they should know where they are on the field.
Yeah.
I've been awaiting as well for the return of Darren Sproles, and they don't seem to be scheming him enough. Has he tried to drag this career on too long, or are they just not getting the best
I
out
think
of
they're
him?
just using him for kick returns. I don't think they're using him.
Well,
for
he had
anything
one
else.
return on a punt for 8 yards, and I think he had 2 carries for nothing, like 2 yards or something. Or 2 receptions, for like 2 or 3 yards. In a team that isn't generating easy yardage, I think he's one of those players that you should be turning to.
I think when you look at what the Bills have done with Frank Gore, like I put Sproles in terms of he's been around the game for a long time. He knows what it takes to be a running back. you can't put all that kind of emphasis on Miles Sanders, who's just coming into the league. Have Darren Sproles take some snaps and be the guy just to lead the team for a couple of plays, because Jordan Howard's not doing it.
So, from this game, the Falcons have put themselves in a not too bad a position in the NFC South.
Well, yeah.
All right.
Because all the NFC South teams are just
1-1.
imploding.
Because everybody is imploding. So, the Saints lost 9-27 to the Rams. The Rams they improved from week 1, but they still don't look like the team that got to the Super Bowl. But they're improving again.
They're slowly building into the season.
And Cooper Kupp looks like he's never been injured, and that was the unluckiest non-score of a touchdown. Like he was down.
I wanted
fractions.
them to give him the ball on that 1 yard run so he could have that touchdown. They should have done, just because it was first down. At least give him one go at it.
He was down, but he was down by an inch, and it had been a brilliant. He jinked past like 3 defenders to get there.
Awesome.
You'd never guess that this guy tore his ACL in November last year.
He looks great.
So the Rams are slowly working their way back up, and again, it's another team that maybe aren't starting fully up to speed, but will get better.
You don't win the Super Bowl in week 2.
No. The Saints, however, may have lost their Super Bowl window now, because Drew Brees has injured his thumb.
Torn ligaments or
damaged ligaments.
Ligaments.
Yeah.
Maybe not torn.
And he's out for about 6 weeks. Teddy Bridgewater did not look good in relief of Drew Brees, but Drew Brees also hasn't looked that good. They do not pass the ball down the field. It's all dinking, dunking all the time. I would be back in Taysom Hill to take the starting job. I think he is the best quarterback on that team now.
I'd love to see it. Out. Yeah, and Taysom Hill looked pretty good in pre-season as well. He had a couple of really good games at quarterback.
Yeah, and you could effectively run the Wildcat with Taysom Hill because he can run like a running back.
Yeah.
They've got to do something to bump start this offense.
I mean, I'd like to see him give him a chance after all this time of sitting behind Drew Brees. Let's give him a shot. And Peyton calls him the next Steve Young. Well, Steve Young turned out to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. So if he is, then he deserves a shot.
I can see Peyton, even with starting Teddy, I can see him throwing Taysom in to just have occasional snaps just to mix things up, because I'm not as down on the Saints as I am the Steelers, because, for one, I'd rather have Teddy and
Taysom Hill
with Sean Payton than Mason Rudolph with Mike
that's
Tomlin.
very true.
So let's see. But yeah, it means it's a huge loss. But
just to bring, there's also another horrible official call in this.
Oh, it was awful, wasn't it?
It was
bad. Lou was it? So Goff had the ball knocked out of his hands. Obviously a fumble, scooped up by Cameron Jordan, who then ran pretty much the entire pitch for a touchdown. But the referees had blown the play dead, thinking it was a forward pass and an incomplete pass at that, and blown it dead before Cameron Jordan was obviously running off. So the play got pulled back. It was confirmed as a fumble, but because the whistle then gone, it meant the Saints had to start way back on within the close to the touchdown area. In that scenario, if there is any doubt on the official's mind whether it was a fumble or whether it was a forward pass, don't blow the whistle.
It's like
you've got video replay. You can go back and have a look. Just let play go and then review it. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. I don't understand why they did it.
The head referee did come out and say that they'd blown the call.
Yeah,
but that doesn't help. It does always seem every week that the Saints will get a blown call.
That could have potentially changed the game, because I think that would have put them either level or a few points behind where the Rams were at that point.
I think they'd have been ahead. What do we think the problems under centre are going to do for Michael Thomas, who has started the season with 20 receptions for 212 yards through 2 games?
I've got Thomas in a fantasy league, and I'm worried because it is a backup quarterback, and
they gave Teddy
DeAndre
a lot
Hopkins.
Of money.
If I had DeAndre Hopkins, I'd be feeling all right because
he's quarterback proof.
Because he's quarterback proof. I don't know if Michael Thomas is.
Well, we're going to find out. If he is worth the money, then he should. I still think he should be okay. I think he will be as well.
I just wish he had this test on a year I didn't have him in my fantasy league.
Out of interest, through 2 games, NFC South, who's top?
Bucks.
It is the Bucks, because they have the best points for, points against ratio.
But the whole division's now completely wide open again.
Oh, it's great.
Well, all of a sudden, the Buccaneers are in playoff contention, which is crazy. I mean, I know we're only 2 weeks in, but they were bad in week 1. They were average in week 2.
They were playing a great team in week 1.
They were. Yep. They were. Now, the Panthers have started 0-2. Cam is potentially missing week 3 with a foot injury. They lost 20-14 to the aforementioned Bucks. And do you know what? I don't think it was as close as 20-14. The Panthers were just not really in the game. They're doing nothing on either side of the ball, particularly. They just don't look good whatsoever. And and I have been Jameis's top level critic, but he did enough this week without trying to be a hero, which is where he falls apart.
It's where he should be as well, because he's not a top 10 quarterback. Just get the job done. Don't give the ball away, which he didn't do this week. Fine. 208 yards, touchdown, not stellar. Also got more out their running game over the last couple of weeks as well. Ronald Jones against 49ers was better, pretty poor against the Panthers, but Peyton Barber, 23 carries, 82 yards, a touchdown, decent. What was really disappointing, though, was the Panthers' offense. Yes, Cam's not looked as good. Again, we talked about Flacco throwing it 50 times, 51 times for Cam Newton coming off the injury he had last year.
That's not what you want to see, is it?
But yards per carry for Christian McCaffrey, 2.3 yards a carry. It's
just not good enough. And this Bucs defense is not a good defense.
It's
getting better.
It's getting better. Maybe it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be.
I'm not sure. I think the Panthers are a lot worse than people thought they were going to be. And if Cam misses significant time, I mean, they've already said Will Greer won't be ready to play this season. So that's, blimey, another nobody. I can't even think who the other player is going to be. It was Tyler Heineke, but they let him go.
They let him go, and Will Greer they drafted in the 3rd round. So, Mason Rudolph was a 3rd-round pick the year before. So maybe Will Greer is the next Mason Rudolph. Luke Kuechly, 17 tackles.
It's Kyle Allen, by the way, was the name of the actual backup quarterback. It's not Will Greer.
Oh, is it not?
Will Greer is 3rd choice. They've said he won't be ready to play this year. It's going to be Kyle Allen. So
I'd rather put Will Greer in and see what happens. 17 tackles for Luke Kuechly. That's a phenomenal amount in one game.
That is a phenomenal amount for one game.
He's a phenomenal player, though.
Yeah, he is.
So McCaffrey, though, could have won the game for the Panthers right at the death. All he had to do was get across the line 1 yard. 1 yard was all he needed. And Vernon Hargreaves, who has not been a consistently good player, just buckled him, just crushed him. And it was almost like they knew Cam's not going to run. They're going to hand it off. Because in the past, 9 times out of 10, Cam runs that in himself. And without him able to do that, he's just an average quarterback.
So that's the biggest difference now in the Panthers' offense. McCaffrey will look better if Newton is a genuine running threat, because defenses have to account for both options. If Newton's not running anymore, then you've got one running back who can carry the ball, because
didn't Cam Newton have minus rushing yards this week? It was like minus 14 or something.
No, he ended up on 0. I think. Maybe my stats aren't.
He got crushed on both of his attempts. I seem to remember. The point is, it's obvious they do not want to run him. So either he is nursing an injury, which it now turns out he is with this foot problem, or they're thinking he's too fragile now.
So that's the problem. If he's not running, the play has to change. I think you could see them bringing in another running back, because there's no one else other than Christian
Melvin Gordon and Christian McCaffrey. Can you imagine?
It'd be brilliant. Yeah, I think that would be perfect.
Before we move on, because I don't want to spend too much time on this game, though, is Cam still the quarterback of the Panthers next year?
That's what I was just about to ask, because I do get the feel.
Yes, he is.
He is, probably, but if they're having to change the way they work as an offense because now they can't use him as a run threat, he isn't. He's not half the quarterback he is if he can't run. So and they're probably going to end up with quite a high draft pick.
At this rate,
these quarterbacks coming out, I think they might take
give it a go.
If they end up able to take one of these 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are coming out of the draft, I think Cam's done.
Who's Justin
Herbert?
Justin Herbert. Because they could be picking in the top 5.
Yeah,
why
there's
not
no
give him a
need
go?
to write their season off just yet.
no, I
But
don't
I'm
think
going to write their season off just yet.
I'm
I
not.
am.
I think they're a better team than what than the results have shown so far.
I think they are, but
it depends. If Cam misses time, they're in trouble. And even if he's there, if he's not fully fit, the point with Cam is when he's fully fit, he's such a threat.
they've sucked since Game 6 last season.
Yeah, as soon as he's been injured, they're in trouble. What that last year they were like 5-2 through the first 7 games.
6-2.
Yeah, they were crushing everybody. It's just not the same. And I don't particularly like Cam Newton. I don't understand how he can be anything other than a distraction to his team. But the point is, when he's at 100%, he gets the job done. So it doesn't matter what I think about.
But when
it.
was the last time he was there?
I couldn't tell. It's the very start. Last
I do
season.
worry that I think Rivera might move on.
Ron Rivera.
Ron Rivera.
Ron Rivera might move on as well. Be moved on. So new coach, new quarterback. But
Yeah, why not? I mean, every team has to go through that at some point.
I don't know. I still think Cam's, even if he's not running the ball, I still think he's got the ability to be a decent pocket passer. I think, we'll see a change in how he plays, but if he comes back, maybe he's not 100% fit, but I think he's still got the ability to be a good passer.
So the Packers are rolling with a 2-0 start, fueled mainly by their defence. We got to see LaFleur and Rodgers getting into it a little on the sidelines, but overall outcome is positive. The Vikings, meanwhile, have plenty of running game and
Kirk Cousins,
and in spite of Kirk Cousins. So which of these two will top the NFC North at the season's end, and why?
Well, let me tell you who it won't be. It won't be any team led by Kirk Cousins because he's rubbish. He's officially rubbish as well. He is currently ranked 31 out of 32 quarterbacks. He is behind Ben Roethlisberger, who's now out for the season, Cam Newton, who is out for next week probably, and ahead of only Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been playing for the worst team we've ever seen.
About to ask who's behind.
Yeah, it's Ryan
should have
Fitzpatrick.
guessed that. Really.
Yeah, should have really. Yeah,
Kirk Cousins is holding this team back. I know they won last week in spite of the fact that he was there, but they only threw 10 times.
I was going to say they only
last
threw
week.
10 times last week.
This week he threw a lot more attempts, but he was terrible.
I think the difference this week was that their defense couldn't hold the Packers' offense early enough to be able to really establish the run. So they were chasing the game a little bit more, which meant that he had to throw 32
they went
times.
14-0 down quite early, didn't they?
Yeah, in the first quarter they were 14-0 down, and they had to, by the end of the first half they were 21-10 down. So they were chasing the game, which means you genuinely have to throw it again. But do you, though, when you've got Dalvin Cook, who rushed 154 yards off 20 carries?
No, admittedly, he should be taking a lot of the pressure off. But the point is, Kirk Cousins has thrown very few passing attempts compared to most. He's thrown 42 attempts this season, right? And he's only completed 52%.
Yeah, he seems to be worse this season with a better offensive line than he was last year,
Did
with
you
an
see
offensive
the
line that gave him no time.
What interception was
The interception where he
awful.
was clearly just trying to throw the ball out of play and basically just didn't. He underthrew a throwaway. What is he
Couldn't
doing?
even find the sideline.
I think they have massively I said this at the time. They have massively overpaid
Yes.
for a middle of the road, high end backup, low end starter quarterback, and they'd have been better off with Case Keenum and a load more extra money to spend.
So well, they would have been better off with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, yeah, probably.
Because at least Fitzpatrick probably doesn't. Okay, yeah, he's having a bad year, but that's not his fault.
There was a video that came up on my feed. It was entitled "Kirk Cousins takes the blame for Vikings loss," and I thought, well, which week is that from? That could be any week because this was last season. It was the same story. He just isn't good enough to lead a playoff caliber team. He isn't. If this team do not make the playoffs, it will be because they're quarterbacked by Kirk Cousins. Because Dalvin Cook, we said it last year before he got injured, is brilliant. He is a brilliant running back. And the defence is more than good enough.
Their defence is awesome.
So, you have to look
And their
at the
offensive
guy,
line is better.
The guy taking up all the money and not getting the job done is Kirk Cousins.
It's not all the money. It's only $29 million.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean,
No, but it's a fair point. They're overpaying for a very mediocre quarterback who he had some good games in Washington, but he was never top 5, was he?
no, of course he wasn't. I don't know where they thought this potential was going to come from. All right, he won some games in Washington with an average team. But, I mean, we haven't even got to his primetime games yet, where he's famously like 0-56 or something in primetime games. And you know he's not going to win. So, I don't know. I think that I would imagine Mike Zimmer and the rest of the coaching staff are thinking, if we could ship him out and bring in an average starter, we'd probably have a better chance of winning and more money to build a better team. I just don't see what he brings to this team that you couldn't get from 28 out of 32 other quarterbacks in the league.
No, it's fair. It's difficult to argue with that.
It's mainly difficult because Gary's not here to defend him this week. I didn't choose to put this segment in because Gary's not here, but it just so happens that that's the way.
So their backup is Sean Mannion, who's got some experience around the league. Does it get to a point where you have to kind of consider doing?
Ask yourself: could Sean Mannion manage a handoff?
Yes, probably. Most quarterbacks can.
And can he manage to complete half of his passes? Probably.
Well, you'd hope so. Yeah.
So what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
Nothing. All right. Who would be trading? Who would offer to trade anything for Kirk Cousins to replace their quarterback right now?
I mean, if he's leaving Minnesota, he's leaving because he's going to be cut.
You haven't heard anything from the Steelers to say, actually, we'd give you a second rounder for Kirk Cousins right now because we think this is our Super Bowl window and you're not getting anything out of him. Like, I know that's a stretch, but what I'm saying is you would never hear that. It's not going to happen.
Well, I think there's two reasons why no one will trade for him. One is because he's bad, and the second is that contract. No one wants to pay that much money for. I went down the list of
quarterbacks, right? And I think I came across 4 quarterbacks that I thought, no, I probably would have Kirk Cousins over him. Gardner Minshew was one of them.
Oh, he's looked pretty good.
Yeah, but I'm basing it on
plus star points for Gardner.
Eli, who's now been replaced. I had Mitchell Trubisky, who I don't think is going anywhere fast.
You know what? I wouldn't mind seeing Eli play behind that offensive line with that running back and 2 decent receivers.
Yeah,
and might actually be better.
For the sake of completing this, Cam Newton, who I think is injured and he's basically doing a Kirk Cousins to his team and not helping them.
Yeah,
and that was it. That was the 4 out of all. I mean, I still would have Joe Flacco over Kirk Cousins. Matt Stafford. I'd easily have Matt Stafford over Kirk Cousins. What are the Vikings doing? They are crippling their Super Bowl window. And by the way, they've never won a Super Bowl.
No, I know.
And this is why, because they make bad decisions like giving Kirk Cousins all the money. Anyway, it was just my little rant. Sorry.
That was a big old rant.
I know. It's because Gary's not here for me to spar with. The Packers with LaFleur, they're 2-0. The defense has been brilliant. The offense has been fits and starts.
Yeah.
But they are currently the best team in the NFC North.
Yes, they are.
Are they not?
Well, yeah, they are based on their record.
It's simple as that. I mean, to the eye test.
They've beaten 2 NFC North contenders as well, and it's not. I don't think the offense is clicking as much as perhaps we expected it to.
But that will take time. He's installed a whole new offense, and Rodgers has got to be persuaded to run it.
Why the hell does Rodgers have to be persuaded to run it? You're the quarterback. He's the head coach.
Do
as you're bloody told.
What we're going to establish this year is whether Rodgers is basically the best quarterback of our generation, I guess, or if he is just uncoachable.
Well, he's not the best quarterback at the moment.
Because at the moment, it's looking a little bit like he's uncoachable.
I don't think he's been the best quarterback for the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, all right. So we've had this conversation before as well. During his career, at times, in large stretches, Aaron Rodgers has been the best quarterback out of 32 available quarterbacks in the league, right? But that time has long since passed. What he is now is the best game manager with big playability. So he can manage your team to effective wins. And if you find yourself 6 points down with 10 seconds to go, he can pull it out of the bag. So that puts him a step above Alex Smith, who he was famously drafted behind.
Wow.
That is where Aaron Rodgers' career has gone.
I think I just heard Duncan explode.
I hope so. But that is where his career has gone. He's now just a top-end game manager with big playability.
Yeah, I don't think he's been helped by the last few years with Mike McCarthy as a coach.
Yeah.
He should be embracing the fact that Matt LaFleur's come in and is a so-called offensive genius who's shaken hands with Sean McVay once or twice. But he should be embracing that and not fighting against it. He should be working with his head coach to get the best out of the team. And it just, I mean, I said this all of last season, he just seems like a little prima donna who has a hissy fit every time something doesn't go his way. Instead of that going back to Lafleur and having a go at him saying, who the heck am I meant to be throwing to? Go back to Lafleur and be constructive and think about, okay, what happened there? Where was the breakdown? Why wasn't there any receivers open? Who could I possibly throw into? That wasn't good enough. What went wrong? How can we fix it? He's not doing that as far as I can tell. Like, he's just going back and having a good old bitch about the fact that there was no receivers open. That's not how you lead a team. That doesn't instill confidence in the younger players around him. And there are now a lot of younger players around him.
His receiving line are basically a lot of younger players.
Yeah.
And Devontae Adams.
I mean, Aaron Jones is playing very well.
They seem to have a running game at the moment.
But Geronimo Allison, 4 receptions for 25 yards. Marcus Valdez-Scantling, who I really thought was going to have a good season, 3 receptions for 19 yards. And then a load of nobodies, basically.
And then Jimmy Graham.
And Jimmy Graham, 0 receptions, 0 yards, no touchdowns, 2 targets. Jimmy Graham is done, really. I mean, he's going to get... He's been reduced.
Oldest tight end
he's been reduced to a low-end tight end now, hasn't he? A low-level tight end.
Yeah.
Like
Jason Witten, low-level tight end wants high-end money.
Yeah.
Jason Witten has come back from the booth for a year out and already looks better than Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not a good place to be.
No.
Currently on viewing, the Packers will win this division because, like I say, they have an offense that's being effectively managed and a defense that is better than we thought.
Yeah.
But
I thought this division would be a lot closer than it actually is. I know we talked about the Lions in previous episodes. And no one thought they were very good. I thought they would be better than what you thought, and I think they've been all right. They threw the game away last week against the Cardinals, but this week I thought they were decent.
Yeah, they beat the Chargers 13-10, but basically the Chargers beat themselves. This was the most Chargers game that I have ever seen. They still were using their punter who scored 2 or 3 field goals last week. They were still using him as their field goal kicker this week because Mike Badgley is still injured, and this week he flubbed 2 field goals, and they lost by 1 of those field goals.
Yeah, but the red zone defense for the Detroit Lions was amazing.
It
really
was.
Like,
it was.
Fair play to their defenses. They keep that defense apart from last week against Cardinals. Is pretty much kept them in that match. They got Darius Slay got an interception in the end zone when it looked like it was easier to score than it was to throw an interception.
It was, and it should have been. And I think Philip Rivers admitted as much when he said, I've got to be better there as well. And if Gary was here, he would say that's a Philip Rivers move, same every week. And he's not wrong, but it was the same old Chargers. You've got a team that, all right, they're defending well, but you are outplaying them. And all you have to do is score one of these opportunities. And you didn't put it to bed. And this is why Philip Rivers has never won a Super Bowl, because he is not capable of putting things to bed when they should be easily done. By the way, he is now the last quarterback standing from that draft, because Ben is out for the year and Eli has been benched for eternity now. And so Philip Rivers...
Eli might be back in the third quarter.
Yeah.
By accident. But...
the other thing with the Lions is that offensive line has got a lot better as well. Like the Chargers pass rush, Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, there was no sacks on Matthew Stafford this week.
No.
And that's a difficult thing to do against that pass rush.
They've the Lions, though, still not really got the running game going. 90 yards is the most anyone's got on their team. That's Kerryon Johnson through 2 games. They need
struggling.
a balanced team.
Yeah.
They need... Kerryon Johnson's a really good running back, but they've got to be able to break some holes in that line for him to get through, and they're not doing it yet. Stafford's putting up good numbers. I mean... We know by now where he is in his career, that he's good enough to win most weeks with the odd stupid mistake thrown in. So if you can balance it with a running game, he's going to be better than Kirk Cousins, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think Stafford's he's always been one of those quarterbacks that's underrated. I think
it's because he's played for a bad team forever.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Philip Rivers, in fact.
But if the defence can now keep him close into a fourth quarter where generally he sort of comes alive, then the Lions might not be as bad as we all thought they might be.
What was your TJ Hawkinson stat?
1 reception for 7 yards.
After his mammoth game last week where he had 6 receptions.
Only 3 targets though, so
But
yeah.
I mean, the whole game was hilarious, quite frankly, because but it's the Lions and the Chargers. You're like, which team is going to mess this up enough to win in the usual way?
If you looked at Twitter was just full of the Chargers are charging again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're well known for it.
But then if they'd have won, you'd have been like, well, that's so
Typical,
Lions.
yeah.
So Lions.
Yeah. I mean, was it? I can't think which receiver it was who was basically was just staring at Phillip Rivers like, I cannot believe you have thrown that interception when I was open. Was it Williams? Well, I think so.
Possibly.
Was it Tyrell Williams? I think so. Anyway, it escapes me. But the stare down, was it Mike Williams?
Tyrell's at Oakland.
Oh, yes, that's okay. Sorry, yes. It just, the stare down was incredible. Like, honestly, come on. I'm here, I'm open. What are you doing?
There was a beautiful diving catch from Mike Williams at one point. My catch of the weekend. Oh, it was lovely.
But it was whole self into it. I remember watching it. It was a very good catch.
Yeah. But, Shall we?
We should. So, Gilo isn't here to discuss the 49ers blowing a team away 41-17 with their win over the Bengals. A much, much better offensive performance than week one. And a 2-0 start for the first time since 2012 when they had that Colin fella got them all the way to the Super Bowl. Anyway, we don't talk about him.
Technically,
Colin McRae.
Alex Smith
Colin McRae
started that season.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
You're right. I told you Alex Smith was brilliant. So,
Quality game manager.
have we all been sleeping on San Francisco a little bit?
Nope.
I have. I didn't think they were going to be
I
2-0.
thought they'd be all right. I thought they'd be half decent.
They certainly do look half decent. Finally, I've seen a game where I understood what the offensive plan was from the 49ers.
I don't, but I still like it.
Because
It's still it looks bloody complicated. I think the great thing is the balance between the running and the passing game. Like, with 297 passing yards and 259 running yards, and that's without Tevin Coleman and Jarrett McKinnon, who are considered to be the top two running backs. Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert have come in, and they're doing just as well. Even
Who is the lead running back now?
This comes back to what we're saying about Seattle. I don't think there is a lead running back. I think Shanahan's now got a system where, providing the player's got enough quality, I mean, don't ask me to do it, but if there's a decent running back, they can get space. Yeah. Garoppolo looked better in his second game than he did his first game.
He didn't look as nervous as
No.
week one. He didn't want to get hit. You could tell.
Yeah, you could tell. But even Garoppolo had 4 running attempts at 8 yards. Not amazing, but he's not a running quarterback. But he was getting the ball out a lot quicker than I've ever seen him do that. And players were open. Like the first touchdown, Marquise Goodwin, there wasn't a player near him. Well, I think it was 13 and a half yards was the closest player to him.
Wow.
So the scheme is working. It's starting to. It seems like it's starting to gel. Deebo Samuel, the rookie wide receiver, looks like a great pickup.
Oh yeah. Well,
we might have 87 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions in this game, something like that.
Yeah, but again, he's looking like one of those gadget type players who he can run the ball from behind the line, or he can be a good pass catching option. That's on the offense, but the big step up is on the defense.
Oh, massive change. The defense is really, really good.
Yeah.
Let's not forget the previous week, the Bengals. All right, they lost, but people were lauding their offense. John Ross has finally had a breakout. They don't need AJ Green. Andy Dalton led the league in passing for the first time on a week ever. This week they put up 17 points, and frankly, they looked bad.
Well, let's face it, the last touchdown was in garbage time, so you can't really count that. But last year we weren't getting sacks. Like DeForest Buckner was the only player who was capable of getting to the quarterback. This year we're seeing, D Ford's there. Okay, he's got a bit of an injury, but Nick Bosa's having an impact. Solomon Thomas got a sack this week. Eric Armstead got a sack this week. DeForest Buckner got a sack this week. They're 3 former first round picks, and it's starting to come together. And the backfield's also doing that as well. Richard Sherman's playing better. Killer Witherspoon is playing lights out. He's got, I think, quarterbacks targeting him through the first 2 games have got a rating of something like 19.
Wow.
So it's not just the offense.
Shut down the running game as well, though. Joe
exactly.
Mixon, 11 carries, 17 yards, and Bernard, 6 carries for 6 yards. Like, the Bengals got nothing going.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton put over 300 yards up, but they never looked dangerous at any point, the Bengals. No. And I don't think the return of AJ Green rescues them particularly. I mean, Tyler Boyd, 122 yards. John Ross, 112 yards. All AJ Green's going to do is eat into their yardage. He's not going to give this team another 100 yards.
I was going to say, I don't think you're going to. Okay, he had a 400-yard game last week, but you're not going to see Dalton throw a lot of 400-yard games.
No.
Well, it was a career day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I say, it was the first time.
Kind of, there's 2 points of caution for the 49ers. One, the 2 teams they played haven't been a brilliant caliber, as we've kind of discussed. But both being away games, so take that into account. Also, Joe Staley fracturing his tibula.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is
Is he
a-
done for the season, or is he
No,
just,
he's done for
an IR
6
candidate?
to 7. He's not even on IR.
No.
6
Oh,
to
really?
7 weeks. They reckon he'll be back, but that's an issue because there's not a lot of depth at tackle within the 49ers as well. I could see them bringing someone else in, but that's a
think you
it's
find-
a key
I think
position.
you find all the available O linemen are being rushed to the Patriots every day at the moment. That seems to be how it's working.
They do have the Steelers at the weekend.
Yeah, see, that
the
could be,
49ers,
that's
which-
easily
so,
another
yeah,
win.
it's
isn't
not
it?
they could be
First home game,
they
yeah.
could be 3-0. You know, quite legitimately.
The Bengals, if they can turn this round quickly and actually balance what they're doing on offense, I mean, their defense still looks terrible. Let's not forget they were the worst defense last year in terms of yards given up, and it still looks bad. But if they can get the offense to operate consistently well in this new Zach Taylor scheme, they're in a division now where the Steelers are crumbling. The Ravens have yet to play anybody any good, right?
Yeah, and the Browns
and the Browns. Well, we're going to get onto them, but the Browns don't look anything special yet. So, all right, they're 0-2, but I don't think they're out of this yet.
I think they're the best looking 0-2 team.
Yeah, they could well be.
Yeah,
Which I'm surprised at. They will struggle to get too far because the defense is bad, but at least you can see some progress on the offense. It wasn't enough against the Niners. The Niners look like a much better team, but the Bengals are rebuilding, and it was not. It was a bad result, but they still don't look awful through 2 weeks. They look like a team who at least are planning for the right direction on offense and haven't
they seem
yet
to be
got
going
the
in the
defense
right
going.
direction.
Yeah, they need another draft, a defensive draft.
It wasn't great the weekend, but it was much better than last year. So it's forward progress for them.
One last stat on this game: the 49ers got the best points differential in the NFL. If you take out teams that have played the Miami Dolphins.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Well, Monday Night Football graced us with the aforementioned Browns, who romped to a 23-3 victory at the Jets, and it looked like two teams heading in opposite directions. Sam Darnold is out indefinitely with mono.
Do you want to give it its full name?
Nope. And the Jets will now most likely be rolling with third choice quarterback Luke Falk after Simeon injured his ankle.
He's now out for the season, right?
He is.
Yeah.
It has come through today that he has torn ankle ligaments and requires surgery. So they will be looking for probably another quarterback to back up Luke Falk because Darnold's out for another 2 or 3 weeks.
And Beckham was the Browns star on the night with 161 yards and a score. Can the Browns do this to better teams?
I think so.
I don't.
Okay.
I thought the offense looked muddled, and if you took out the 2 big distance receptions that OBJ had, they had nothing. They had barely 200 yards if you took out those 2 massive. What was it, like a 45 and an 80-yard run or something?
89 yards.
Yeah, they don't look terrible, but this does not look like a team that is ready to take the next step. Not to me. I still think it comes down to Freddie Kitchens. I think he wasn't ready for this job.
I'm not going to judge yet. They were poor first week, and then Baker lost his mind and started throwing it away from.
Yeah, he tried to force it.
Yeah, and this week they played against a Jets team that we can't judge because it was
I think the Jets,
so many people missing for that Jets team.
The Jets kind of still hung in there. Okay, they only got 3 points, but there's
Le'Veon Bell was giving it everything.
Le'Veon Bell's getting everything.
31 touches did he have? It's crazy.
Yeah,
he had
31 touches. That's right. So 21 carries and 10 receptions. Luke Falk, 20 out of 25. Okay, only 198 yards, but they just couldn't get the ball into scoring positions.
He was a functional backup quarterback, but that's all he's going to be. He's Trevor Simeon already was a low-end backup quarterback. Luke Falk must not be a great deal better, if at all.
They're big on him in New York, though. They really like him.
Who? Luke Falk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have taken Luke Falk over
Who
Trevor Simeon.
drafted Luke Falk? Was it the Patriots? Was it the Patriots or the Titans? Somebody took him, and I remember thinking, I'd looked at his game film from college, and he's a project. He was 3 years away from being able to start in the league. Well, that must be about where we're at now. And maybe
It was New England, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. Maybe
No, it wasn't.
They'll have unearthed something.
Looked at the right.
It was Danny Etling that we took. I think that was the same year. I'm not massively down on him, but there must be a reason why Trevor Siemian, who over the 2 years when he started at the Broncos was like 31st out of 32 quarterbacks in QBR in the league.
He wasn't great, but
there must be a reason for that.
Any quarterback that's not named Manning that has been picked by John Elway is going to be bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the Browns were flattered by a Jet. I mean, the Jets didn't have Quinnen Williams or Mosley on defense, and yet they still made the Browns struggle to put up 23 points against a team that wasn't doing anything offensively at all.
I think there's a lot of hype about this Browns team. I just think it's going to take time to gel still. They've got the pieces there, both on offense and defense. Myles Garrett had 3 sacks.
Oh yeah, look, they've certainly got some brilliant standout players.
Baker Mayfield, I think he knows what the issue is with his game at the moment. He's not making the easy passes. He's trying to force it, which is why he threw a load of interceptions at the end of the game last week. We were talking about earlier where one of his interceptions this week, it was to player in double coverage when Nick Chubb was open 15 yards closer to him. And that was the easy pass. And he came out in his press conference and said, I need to make those checkdowns. I need to read the field better.
He's got a touch of the Jameis going on, is what you're saying.
He has a little bit, yeah.
Going for hero ball all the time.
Well, that's why I like Baker, though. He's a street fighter of a player.
I think he's got,
but I think he's smart enough to work it out.
I think he's more likely to be successful with that hero play than Jameis Winston ever was.
No, totally.
While we're discussing the Browns, we'll wrap up the AFC North and the AFC East. So the Ravens beat the Cardinals 17-23. Now, the Ravens have beaten 2 not great teams in the first 2 weeks, but this should never have been 17-23. And once again, the Cardinals turned it on in the last quarter. They did nothing for more or less the whole game. Then all of a sudden, Larry Fitzgerald was 20 yards separated from everybody else. It's almost like they haven't got the guts to open their full game plan up early in the game in case it goes horribly wrong. And then once they're behind, they just think, oh, well, we'll have a go and see. Like, they're almost drip feeding it in.
I think that's exactly it, which is a shame because they've obviously, as short as Kyler Murray is, he's obviously got massive potential in terms of his abilities
his passing
to throw.
Over the middle of the field is no worse than anybody else's, apart from last week he had a load batted down, and this week I think it made him slightly gun shy of trying to do it. But
he still threw for 349 yards.
He's so accurate. He's so accurate.
We have to remember as well, it's his second game. He's so young, It's going to take him time to bed into the league,
But the Ravens, they put up the points again. Lamar Jackson looked brilliant again. I mean,
he was running it this week, wasn't he? 120 yards off 16 attempts.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be talked about as one of the 4 or 5 MVP candidates if he keeps this up. But I want to see them against a good team or two before I decide.
Sunday they play the Chiefs.
Yeah, and we'll see.
Which I think is just going to be insane fun.
It's going to be a complete ding-dong, isn't it?
It's going to be great, isn't it?
Because I don't think either team have got a great defence.
Not
so
really.
that could be quite a lot of points.
And the AFC East, the Patriots played. Well, I say they played. The other team turned up eventually.
Did they?
The Dolphins. Well, it was only 13-0 at half time.
Yeah, but through 3 quarters, I think the Dolphins had something like 23 plays at 89 yards or something. It was something stupid like that. It was a ridiculously low stat.
It was particularly poor. I think in the first quarter they'd only got 8 yards of offensive play or something.
And I think it wasn't until the 4th quarter they actually made it over the halfway line.
Well, there were 2 pick sixes.
I think at one point the Patriots had more plays than the Dolphins had yards.
Yes, you're right. You said that to me while we were watching.
38 plays against 28 yards.
Yeah. There were 2 pick sixes. The New England defense, if you had them in fantasy, were insane.
37 points.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
They were just. I mean, they were racking up every stat you could. Look, it's the Dolphins. It doesn't count for a lot. Antonio Brown got a touchdown on his debut. They went to him on 4 out of the first 5 passing plays. Like, they're going to use him.
Might get used to having him wasted around.
Yeah, but that's it. I think they're going to use him until the league suspends him, which they might. I hope he hasn't done what they're saying he might have done. And until somebody produces evidence, that is how it should be treated. but
it's not looking good.
No, in the modern world, maybe it doesn't look good for him. So why not just throw him the ball? Because even if he gets suspended, you're just going to go back to Josh Gordon, who got slightly more ignored this week because you had Antonio Brown. There's not a lot else to say. The Dolphins are easily the worst team we've seen. They look worse than the 0-16 Browns.
Yeah, they do. This is a team that is well on its way.
It's no
to
wonder that
0-16.
Minka Fitzpatrick wanted out. It's no wonder that Laramie Tunsil wanted out. I mean, I really like, as a person, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I do not want to see him get crushed every week. They brought in Rosen, the same as they did the week before. He threw another interception because there's no time. There's no line to stand behind and set yourself. Like, they are dreadful. I don't like the idea of tanking. I understand why it's being done. People keep justifying it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm not sure it's right for the game. I mean, fans pay how much
extent.
a ticket?
Yeah, not to this extent. I think there was. Well, I think I commented on Twitter that at one point, I think it was when one of the New England touchdowns, you could visibly see more fans cheering that touchdown. It was like a Miami Dolphins fan are they on board with the whole tanking thing and they're just rooting against their team to get a number one pick, or are there just more New England fans in that stadium than there are Miami fans? Which I wouldn't be surprised either way. I understand the concept of tanking. I don't like it to this extent because now Minka Fitzpatrick's gone. They've got one good player, Xavier Howard, in my mind. It's the cornerback. It's going to take. Yeah. This isn't a 1 year turnaround. This is a 2 to 3 year turnaround. So they're happy with their coach Brian Flores because it would be incredibly hard of them to sack him after not 1 year, after 2 years, because they've now got 3 first round picks. You've got 3 lottery tickets. You still need to have the scouts in place and the right personnel in place to bring in new players and coach them up to an ability where they can all gel together very quickly and play in the NFL next year. Because this is an 0-16 seed. If they win a game, I will be shocked because this is a terrible team.
If in the past people have said Belichick doesn't always play well against coaches that have been part of his coaching tree. You know, Bill O'Brien always runs him close, and he's struggled against other coaches that have got. You know, Matt Patricia beat him last year. This year, he left Tom Brady in for the whole game. They were destroying the Dolphins. Brady was still slinging it in the fourth quarter. This says to me, Belichick was making a point. Like, I'm sure he hears some of the murmurings that go on, and I think he thought, look, this Dolphins team have got nothing. I don't feel the need to ease off. If they want to do this and they want to... Belichick's a historian of the game, and he would not like to see a team be dismantled like this, even if it is around somebody that he has worked with. And I think he's making the point. You do this, we're just going to play you to our best, and we'll show you what the difference is.
Do you know what? Once we've finished recording this, I'm going to have a look at it and see what the odds are for Miami Dolphins picking first in the 2020 draft and first in the 2021 draft.
Yeah, it's probably quite high.
Yeah, they're not going to...
Evens.
Yeah, because even after a year with 3 first-round picks, you're not going to get free agents going there because, quite frankly, who's going to want to go there?
Well, you look at the other 0-16 teams, you know, like the Browns weren't actively tanking; they just sucked.
Yeah, and they were just close. They were close in a few games.
Yeah.
Lost.
This team,
this is actively tanking.
It's so brazen. It's quite hard to.
You can't get on board with it. The other thing is as well. Let's not forget the Miami Miracle last year. I think Belichick played that video in the locker room and said, "We are not falling to this team." They rushed Brady for a touchdown against a team that they're crucifying. You don't have to do that with your star quarterback. And he was saying, you guys didn't get the job done last year. This team are a disgrace in the league. We are dismantling them. 43-0. What did you tell me they are this season already? Since the Super Bowl.
Since the last 3 games, I think New England are 89-6.
Yeah, that's incredible in the modern game to only giving up 6 points across 3 games, even if it was the Dolphins that they played this week. Just for the record,
the Steelers last week and the Rams. You know, there's two out of three teams were
for the
pretty
record,
decent.
Rosen did play better than Fitzpatrick. Rosen was 7 of 18, 97 yards and a pick. Fitzpatrick 11 of 21, 89 yards and 3 picks.
I know you just can't pin on either of them.
No, of course you can't. No,
of course. You've got the Jets this weekend, so the 6 might not be added that much too.
Jesus, no, maybe not.
I had a Pats fan on a WhatsApp group who made the comments like, divisions need to be reseeded because the AFC is a joke.
But it's not the Patriots' fault.
No, it's not. It's the other teams that can't keep up.
No,
And they've made bad decisions again and again. Okay, at least the Bills look like a half decent team, but now look like a decent team. Sorry, through the first 2 weeks. So, like I said, I think they're the only ones that can legitimately give New England trouble.
I heard somebody the other day say it was like 14 years to the day since Drew Brees turned down the Dolphins, or the Dolphins, turned down Drew Brees because of his arm and sent him to the Saints. And then in this offseason, Teddy Bridgewater turned down the Dolphins and said, no, I will stay at the Saints rather than come and play for your terrible team. And they don't have any... It's all right having all these draft picks, like you say. Where are you starting from? Like, we've just spoken a few minutes ago about teams that are building on one side of the ball, and then after the next draft, when they've done the other side of the ball, they've got a complete team. This Dolphins team needs 6 first-round draft picks at the moment because they don't all work out. If you've got 3... one probably is a star, one is an average starter, and one probably isn't on your team inside 3 years. This tanking thing, there's a reason why it doesn't catch on.
It's not even the first round picks. They need to hit the second round picks, the third round picks, the fourth round picks. Like, they need to hit on pretty much every single pick they make.
They need 10 to 15 immediate starters.
Yeah.
And there is no way of getting that done.
Okay, into the final stretch. It's speed round. Kick off the Titans. They lost 19-17 to the Colts. What do we make of the result that seems both teams start at 1-1?
Titans doing the typical thing of playing up to half decent opposition and playing down to bad opposition.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Colts basically can count themselves lucky that another poor performance from Adam Vinatieri didn't cost them. It looked like he was going to announce his retirement. He said, you will hear from me. And then today, Frank Wright came out and said, no, we are sticking with him.
I think that was a spur-of-the-moment thing with
Well,
a lot of emotion. They've talked him down from the edge.
Yeah, he would have definitely gone in there and said, I'm done.
I think he's done at the end of the season.
Absolutely. But I'm still not sure he gets the end of the season. But I think fairly as well, the Colts would have said to him, look, in this fantastic Hall of Fame career, and he will be a Hall of Famer,
definitely.
In this fantastic Hall of Fame career that you've had, where you've won Super Bowls and you've had the longest kicking career of all time, you get a couple of bad weeks. Like, if we get to mid-season and we've lost more games because of you and you want to go, that's fine, but you go out on a high if possible. Like, if he hits the game-winning field goal next week, don't be surprised if he walks away.
Yeah.
I think every week now, I think this is a week to week, because also they'll be looking for his replacement. They'll be looking to bring kickers in to start to train them up and get them ready, because I think it's week to week. I really do.
Yeah.
Other than that, like Jim says, Titans, you got to make this game count, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Cowboys came out on top 31-21 in a game that was closer than we thought it may or should have been, but Dak still showing potential MVP candidates.
Pay him now, because if they leave it to the end of the season, it's going to cost even more at the rate he's going.
Yeah, they got to get him paid. The highlight for me was Dak stiff-arming formerly good player Josh Norman. Remember Josh Norman? Remember when he was really good?
Completely gone off the board.
He has, and he basically said that, Dak was just an average quarterback before the game, and Dak didn't say anything. He just smashed him in the face as he ran past him.
Everyone's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Josh Norman, for me, I'd forgotten he was even there. What a dip in a career that's been. Should have just stayed at the Panthers.
Yeah, I think a lot of kudos in this Cowboys team to new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore.
It's been brilliant.
I think he could be, head coach material next year.
Well,
because he's turned that offense
this is the thing,
around.
right? When Jason Garrett got the job, it's because Jerry didn't want him to go to other teams, right? What are the chances that if Jason Garrett doesn't get to at least the championship game, the NFC championship game, what are the chances he gets sacked and replaced by Kellen Moore?
They love Jason Garrett, though.
But they love a winner.
What are the chances of them doing? Like, you remember the Liverpool when they had Houllier and Roy Evans as joint manager?
The worst joint manager of all time.
What are the chances of them having like a joint head coach? Because I can't see them firing Jason Garrett if he gets that far.
I can. If somebody else comes sniffing for Kellen Moore, I think Garrett is gone.
Maybe.
So, big potential MVPs. Patrick Mahomes is all right. He lit up the Raiders in the second quarter.
That was it.
That's it, yeah. Was it the most points in a quarter since Drew Brees did it in like 2010 or something?
Something like that.
Probably.
Basically, there were
or most yards in a quarter since Drew Brees.
10.
It was 10-0 to the Raiders, and the Chiefs didn't look like they were on the game
just
at all.
Bang, 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 28-10.
and then
that's what
no
they
more
needed
scoring.
to do.
The
Ridiculous.
Raiders should take nothing out of this game other than we already knew the Chiefs were really good, and they played us really good, and that's it. The Raiders didn't do anything bad. They couldn't get enough going. Derek Carr,
2 interceptions.
yeah,
this week.
he had a very Derek Carr game. He's turning into a Phillip Rivers,
Yeah.
basically.
Jacobs looks good as well, though. 12 carries, 99 yards. Didn't get a touchdown this week, but that's an impressive
Yeah,
stat.
the Raiders should just put this one aside and say, actually, look, our start hasn't been that bad. People have written us off. We are not an awful team. We're doing a good job with what we've got.
Yeah, you're not going to beat the Chiefs.
And finally, the Jags lost 12-13 to the Texans on Sunday, and maybe losing one of their best players too, as Jalen Ramsey is reportedly seeking
I've literally been watching
trade.
Twitter through the whole of this podcast, waiting for an alert to come through that Jalen Ramsey's gone. He's not gone yet, so we'll see
Apparently
what happens.
there's solid interest.
Of course there is. He's a
'Cause,
quality
you know-
player. I mean, he sounds like he appears to be a bit of a dick on the sideline and in the dressing room, but he's a quality player.
Yeah, him and Marone obviously had a bit of a set two.
So we saw what Antonio Brown did in order to get away from the Raiders. It now seems very much that player power is taking over, and players are basically saying, I don't like this, I'm off. We've heard about all the Dolphins players saying, I want to be traded.
Jadeveon Clowney almost chose where he wanted to be traded to.
And now Ramsey basically saying, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to play for you. I will argue with my coach. You don't know what he's going to do on the pitch. And if he plays for them again, he might just storm off again.
I will say it did look like Marone
Yeah.
approached him for the verbal set two.
I think
He'd fallen out with the defensive coordinator first.
They had a bit of a set to first, and then Moran went to. He's being a bit of a diva on the sideline. He's not been as good as he was the couple of seasons back. But
He's
I
been a
think
diva for 18 months now.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of divas in that Jaguars dressing room recently. They got rid of Dante
Splitting
Fowler.
them up will actually be a good thing.
Yeah, Ngakwe had a bit of a holdout with a contract issue. There were fights going on within the team. I think Doug Marone's in proper trouble because if he can't control this dressing room, and there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of that ball. All right, the offense is.
This is not a Tomlin situation where you've got an established coach who's had winning records for years, and he's going to get the benefit of the doubt because his star quarterback is out. This is a guy who 18 months ago they were in the AFC Championship game and they were 20 points up on the Patriots or whatever it was.
Yeah, and they could have been
16 points up, and they didn't win the game. Well, they were 10 points up with 2 minutes to play or something, weren't they? And they didn't win the game. All right. Last year was terrible. He could have been sacked then, and he wasn't.
I think he's probably given the benefit of the doubt.
Gardner Minshew, 23 of 33, 213 yards and a touchdown. He did fumble the ball 3 times, which definitely didn't help. But he also carried for 56 yards off 6 carries. Minshew couldn't have done any more.
He got more yards than Leonard Fournette.
Nick Foles may have done marginally, if nothing, better.
You don't have the handling errors with Nick Foles.
Yeah, okay, so the fumbles are the only thing, and Minshew's a new quarterback. I'm willing to let that slide. The drop off here isn't Ben to Mason Rudolph size, is it? That's what I'm getting at. Marone can't hang his problems on this.
No, I think Minshew's playing out of his skin at the moment. He's doing a good job at auditioning for a future starting role. You know, he's had 1.5 games, and fumbles aside, he's not really done
Podcast
that much.
favourite Jeff Swain, 3 receptions for 14 yards off 4 times.
3 receptions in one game, Swain.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, well done.
Houston looked pretty dodgy though.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
great.
I mean, let's face it, Marone
Scrape to
also
win.
buggered up a call.
Yes.
The 2-point call. You know, those are always ones. If they go in, you're the savior, and if they don't, you're the villain.
We saw that at Wembley, didn't we, last year? Was it
Yeah.
Wembley?
Yeah,
and,
I remember it.
You know, Mike Vrabel went for it.
Titans.
The Titans went for it, and I loved the call.
But
But
then they chose to run it on a day
Yeah.
where Leonard Fournette is only getting like 3.1 yards a carry. He's not 47 yards in total. He's not. Leonard Fournette is still not the player that Leonard Fournette was.
I don't think Leonard Fournette is
season.
ever going to be that first round running
And
back.
again, I think this comes down to a management issue, and they're not getting the best out of some of their best players. There's a lot of talented players on that team.
The only time I've seen him look like a first-round running back was when he ran across the field to punch a guy last year. Other than that, he's been really disappointing.
I don't think necessarily Marone is gone mid-season, but I wouldn't. He's one of the
I think he will be.
one of the 3 or 4 candidates to go early in the year. And if he goes, Tom Coughlin will take over, and this team will immediately improve. That is what I reckon would happen. I reckon Coughlin will get more out of these players than Doug Marone, and I think Coughlin knows it as well.
Well, should we quickly move on to some fantasy stuff, because Gary sent me some fantasy thoughts.
That was good of him.
That's nice.
Because basically, drop or trade out. If you've got Duke Johnson, Hyde has destroyed his value so far. So try and trade out Duke Johnson.
He has got Gary literally has got Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
I offered him a trade, and he said no.
Well, I think maybe I think he's currently sat up in Chester regretting that. Kenyon Drake, 2 games, 31 yards. Just what the
Jesus,
Surely no one drafted him anyway.
Any Dolphins should be dropped right now.
Yeah, just DD Westbrook. The Jags offense looks worse than ever, but this is, of course, Gary Blake Bortles fan number 1. But
I mean, if you're going to play in a PPR league, DJ Shark's had a good few receptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give him his full name, please?
No,
It's,
I can't.
DJ Shark.
Pick up where possible any player playing the Dolphins. Literally any player. Which kind of makes it, well...
Yeah, it's a fair comment.
Yeah, it's
Debo
fair.
Samuel.
Yeah.
Still available in a lot of leagues. We're all shocked that Gary has picked a 49ers player to pick up. But there was a lot of talk over the summer. He looks great. And Terry McLaurin at the Redskins.
Scary Terry.
Scary Terry again.
Scary Terry. They may have found their WR1, and of course in PPR, that means a lot. So there's some fantasy thoughts.
Thanks,
if
Gary.
People who are available.
We appreciate the contribution
Thanks,
from
Gary.
a man who is
We're all hitting the
working
wave
his butt
wire
off.
right now.
Didn't he? Did he end up in Chester tomorrow or overnight, thinking he was in Coventry? So he'd like trebled his mileage because he read the postcode wrong. Brilliant.
Yes. So it's time for an irregular feature called "Play Your Cardinals Right."
You've got an
You love
irregular
this,
feature. Play your cards right. This
Play your Cardinals right.
Cardinals right.
Play your Cardinals right. I'm
Because
sorry.
that what you just said would get us sued
Yeah. I think we might get
by
sued
the
if this
ghost
is
of
terrible.
Bruce Forsyth. So, basically, I was playing on the internet the other day. Has
bet
anyone
you were.
seen the site Cameo?
Yes.
No.
Cameo is a site you can go on and you can pay famous people to send you or send your friends a video message.
Right. It's not a song from the 80s that they send you.
No.
By the band
They
Cameo.
just send you a personalised message.
They don't say word up.
No, they don't. Well, you can
you
ask
can
them
ask
to-
them to say
well,
word
that
up.
would
You
be
probably can pay Cameo on Cameo to sing you word up.
I think you know what I want for my birthday.
Well, I was looking into the prices of NFL players. So higher and lower, I'm going to give you some players. Starting low, we've got Nick Mullen. If you want a personalised message from Nick Mullen, it will cost you $100.
That much?
That much. If you want one from Brett Hundley, do you reckon it's higher or lower than Nick Mullen?
Hang on, before we guess, right? Do we need... Like, I assume this game is over once we get it wrong. So should we just take opposite guesses? Otherwise, this game is over after one.
Well, no.
I would assume from Brett Hundley.
I'll give you a couple wrong because I get the feeling this might be over quite quickly.
I would suggest Brett Hundley.
I'm going to go with lower.
I would say higher because he started more games.
Brett Hundley, $40.
Whoa!
So
I'm out.
Jim, we'll go. Jim is 1-0 up. Mike Gesicki, Dolphins tight end,
Higher or lower than $40?
Higher.
Yeah, it must be higher.
45.
Yes.
These people don't value their time at all.
They have. It's basically how much they value themselves, and this is quite important. How much they value themselves.
Right.
Matt Hack. Do you know Matt Hack?
No.
He is the Dolphins punter. Do you reckon he charges more or less than
It's got to be
Mike
less.
Gesicki?
I mean, all logic would suggest less, so I'm going to go higher.
Okay. Well, I'll stick with less, but I appear to be terrible at this game.
It's $100. So Jim is 2-1 up. Sticking in Dolphin territory. Callum Ballage,
Higher.
Yeah, higher.
lower, $50.
Hang on, a decent running back is lower than
the punter.
a punter. Right, that makes perfect sense. You can tell they set these prices themselves, can't you?
We haven't got into the good bits yet.
There's a good bit to this
So
game.
let's go. Jeff Driscoll. He's just got re-signed.
So much higher.
Yeah, it's got to be higher.
$40.
What? Jeff, have some self-respect.
Okay, former running back CJ Spiller. Higher or lower than $40?
Running backs will deal us. I'm going to go higher.
I would assume it wouldn't matter because on his way to record the message, you just get injured. Yeah, higher.
$25.
Bloody hell.
He sees himself lower than Brett Hundley, Jeff Driscoll. Okay,
Do you think they do any research into this? Or they just pick
Whitney
out
Merciless. Do you reckon lower or higher?
than $25?
Yeah.
It's got to be higher.
Higher.
There must be a minimum requirement.
$50 though. He's still less than Matt Hack.
Mullins.
Okay, so we're getting into good players now. Do you reckon Jordan Howard, more or less than Whitley Merciless?
More.
Yeah, $100. Joe Thomas, more than $100.
more.
It's got to be more
That's
because
the
A,
media
he's
thing as well.
really famous,
Yeah.
and B, he's not earning any money as a player.
He's-
$195.
Yeah. So
Joe-
far, the only one I'd actually want a message from as well.
Yeah, he's actually quite good on Twitter as well.
Right.
Joe Mixon, more or less than
More.
$195.
He's going to be like
Less.
$300.
$200, $5 more. Morton Anderson, our first Hall of Famer,
He's a Hall of Famer. He's got to be less.
$100.
Yeah.
Vernon Davis,
More or less than
More.
$100. I'm going to say less than $100.
I'm going to go more.
$150.
Oh, wow.
Of course he is. He's a legend.
Okay, the first man here to have shot himself, Plaxico Jabourez.
Just for the fact that he shot himself, he's got to be more.
Yeah, $100.
How much would he charge me if I went from him whilst he shoots himself?
Andre Reed, more or less than $100.
More.
$175. Pierre Garçon,
Less.
more or less than $175.
Got to be
It's got
less.
to be less.
If it's more, Gary will explode.
$1,000.
Pierre, what are you doing? Is he even on a team this year?
Adrian
I don't think he is,
Peterson.
though.
Remember, Adrian Peterson has money issues.
He's got no money. He
He's
has
got-
to be more than $1,000.
Well, no, because surely it will go the other way. He wants more people to ask for messages, so he charged like $500.
Yeah, but what you're doing there is using logic.
Oh.
$300.
Yeah. See?
Matt Forte.
I use Peterson logic.
So Matt Forte, more or less,
Less.
Less.
$350.
What?
None of this makes
Darius
any sense.
Geis, Adrian Peterson's teammate,
And
and
injury-prone backup.
played one NFL game, more or less.
Way more.
$500. Terry Bradshaw,
Oh, way more.
Way more.
$1,000.
$400.
Oh, what?
We're getting near the end now. We're getting near the end now.
That feels like it, no?
Brian Urlacher,
More.
Oh, Bears legend. Yeah, he's got to be like, he must be the biggest
Yeah.
one so far. $1,500.
$540.
Oh, what? Brian, you're underselling yourself.
I think so.
Brett Favre,
I reckon Brett Favre does it for shits and giggles.
that is actually what it says here. You send him some shit and some giggles. No, $500 for Brett Favre.
Okay. Is this per word or is it just like per message?
Just per message.
RG3,
Less.
More.
$200.
Oh. God, I suck at
There's
this.
no
Okay.
logic to this.
No,
at all.
no.
No, there's none at all. Okay, Troy Aikman, more or less,
More.
$500.
Yeah.
Okay, Marshall Falk,
500.
More.
Less.
450, so
Oh.
less. Okay, Mike Ditka,
He's another one who do it for free just to say things.
Yeah.
And Mike Ditka, $1.
Oh, it has to be more.
$500. Josh Norman,
More.
Oh,
I bet it's
don't
more.
care. I wouldn't want a message
Go
from
on.
him anyway.
more or less
He'd
than
have to pay me.
more or less than
Mike Ditka, less.
More.
$1,000.
Yeah, of
Fuck's
course it
sake.
is.
And finally, Terrell Davis. Do you want to just guess how much Terrell Davis?
$5,000.
$50.
$500.
Oh, okay.
I think Jim's the winner.
Yeah, I suspect so.
What
There are
a lot
so
to
many
buy
people in there
Yeah.
I would not want messages from.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah. That's just the selected few. There's so many more. There's quite a few of them.
What do you charge?
$25, but I'll do it nude.
Wow. It's $25 I'm keeping.
Okay, let's have a quick look at next week's schedules and pick out a lock or two.
Whoever's playing the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ban anyone who's playing the dog. You can't just say. So this week there's a ban on the Cowboys.
Okay, I am going to take.
In your own time.
I'll take Bills.
I was just going to do that.
I will take the Falcons at the Colts. I think the Falcons starting to get it going here. Indianapolis a favourite to win, but I think the Falcons will win this.
All the ones I'm looking at are just too obvious.
Yeah, there are some obvious ones. Has anybody taken the Patriots over the Jets?
Again,
yes.
like I said,
I think
there's
I
too
might.
too
Is that what
bloody
you just
obvious.
said?
I'm going to
Sorry.
take
No,
the
no.
Texans over the Chargers.
Also, Bills over the Bengals.
That was my pick. Too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
hang on. Who's definitely taking the Niners over the Steelers minus Ben Roethlisberger? Anybody?
I am. Niners look really good.
They can't do it.
You've got to. I'm asking you which way you're going on this.
Oh, well, it's Niners, but
Well, okay, all right. And I'd like to know what you think about Daniel Jones' first game against the Bucks. I'm saying heavy
more
defeat.
the same.
Yeah, I'm saying they score. I'm saying they look better than they do with Eli, but I think they lose quite a lot.
I'm just gonna enjoy looking at Eli's face on the sideline, looking miserable. But of course, that's just his natural face.
It'll look just the same as the guy still under centre because they're virtually identical.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening. We are the Snap UK podcast. Find us on social media. We're on Twitter at the Snap UK. Keep an eye out for our new website coming soon, and leave us a review wherever you listen.
Can people play your Cardinals right on our social media?
Yeah, we can. Let's put it on YouTube sometime. Let's get Paul involved. But yeah, until next week, we'll see you then.